The National Hockey League playoffs are a different beast entirely. Every pass, every shot, every save carries immense weight. This is magnified in the conference finals. Here, only 4 teams remain. Each one is battling for a coveted spot in the Stanley Cup final. The Carolina Hurricanes found themselves in this intense environment. They were facing the formidable Florida Panthers. The stakes could not have been higher for either franchise as they clashed for Eastern Conference supremacy. The air crackles with anticipation before each game. Fans are on the edge of their seats. Players know that a single mistake can shift momentum dramatically. The Eastern Conference Finals represent the culmination of a long, grueling season. It is a test of skill, endurance, and willpower. For the Hurricanes and Panthers, this series was a chance to etch their names in hockey history. The pressure is a constant companion, a force that can either forge champions or expose weaknesses. Every shift feels like a mini-battle within the larger war. The pressure was mounting with each passing moment, demanding an answer from the team. The Carolina Hurricanes entered the Eastern Conference Finals with high expectations. They had a strong regular season. They showed dominance in the early playoff rounds. However, the Florida Panthers proved to be a difficult opponent from the outset. The first 2 games of the series did not go Carolina's way. The Hurricanes found themselves in a challenging 0-2 hole. This was not the start they had envisioned. The team looked uncharacteristically outmatched in crucial moments of those initial contests. In those first 2 encounters, the Panthers' offense was potent. They managed to outscore the Hurricanes by a significant margin of 10-2. This offensive disparity was a major concern for Carolina. Game 1 was a hard-fought battle, but Florida edged it out. Game 2 was a more decisive victory for the Panthers, a 5-0 shutout. This lopsided scoreline was a wake-up call for the Hurricanes. They needed to find answers quickly, or their Stanley Cup aspirations would fade fast. The team's usual high-energy, relentless forecheck seemed less effective against Florida's structured play. The mood in the dressing room was undoubtedly tense. The series was at a critical point, and the Hurricanes' response would define their season. Trailing 0-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, Carolina Hurricanes coach Rod Brind'Amour knew something needed to shift. Desperate times often call for bold measures in the high-stakes environment of the NHL playoffs. Brind'Amour, a coach known for his passionate and direct approach, decided to make a significant change. He announced that backup goaltender Pyotr Kochetkov would start Game 3. This meant benching the established starter, Frederik Andersen. This decision was not made lightly. Andersen had been the Hurricanes' primary goaltender for much of their playoff run. However, the team's recent struggles, particularly the 10 goals allowed in 2 games, forced Brind'Amour's hand. When asked about the reasoning, Brind'Amour stated the move was to change the vibe a little bit. He was careful not to place all the blame on Andersen for the goals conceded. Yet he also acknowledged a critical need: we do need some saves. The hope was that a new face in net could inspire a renewed defensive commitment from the entire team. Frederik Andersen's playoff journey in 2025 had been a tale of 2 distinct phases. Prior to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Florida Panthers, he was a rock for the Carolina Hurricanes. His statistics were stellar. Andersen boasted a .937 save percentage. He maintained an impressive 1.36 goals against average. In those first 9 playoff games, he had allowed only 12 goals. He looked like the reliable, veteran presence the Hurricanes needed to make a deep playoff run. Teammates praised his calm demeanor and big save ability. However, the series against the Florida Panthers painted a starkly different picture. The Panthers' offense seemed to have Andersen's number. In Games 1 and 2, Andersen allowed a surprising 9 goals on just 36 shots. This translated to a concerning .750 save percentage. His goals against average ballooned to 5.54 against Florida. The confident Stonewall, as defenseman Jacob Slavin had called him, suddenly appeared vulnerable. The decision to bench Andersen for Game 3, while difficult, became understandable in this context. With Frederik Andersen struggling against the Florida Panthers, the spotlight turned to Pyotr Kochetkov. The young Russian goaltender was tasked with a monumental challenge: start Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. His team was down 0-2. The pressure was immense. Kochetkov was no stranger to the Hurricanes' net, however. He had played a significant role during the 2024-2025 regular season. In fact, he started most of the games for Carolina, appearing in 47 contests. He posted a respectable 27-16 and 3 record during that span. Kochetkov's regular season numbers included a .898 save percentage and a 2.60 goals against average. These statistics were quite similar to Andersen's regular season figures. This indicated that Kochetkov was a capable NHL goaltender. He had also seen some playoff action earlier in the 2025 postseason. When Andersen was briefly injured in the first-round series against the New Jersey Devils, Kochetkov stepped in. He performed admirably, securing 2 victories. In those games, he allowed 5 goals on 50 shots, showcasing his potential under pressure. The decision to start Kochetkov was about more than just his past statistics. It was about providing a different look to the Panthers. The goaltending change was the most significant headline for the Carolina Hurricanes heading into Game 3. However, it wasn't the only adjustment coach Rod Brind'Amour was considering. When a team is down 0-2 and has been outscored significantly, coaches often look at all aspects of their lineup. The Hurricanes were exploring options to bolster their forward group and solidify their defense. These changes aimed to provide a better overall team performance against the Florida Panthers. One notable change was the expected return of center Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He had been a healthy scratch for Game 2. Kotkaniemi's reinsertion into the lineup was intended to add depth and perhaps some offensive spark to the bottom 6. His presence could also help with faceoffs and provide a different look for the Panthers to counter. The defensive core also faced some uncertainty. Defenseman Jalen Chatfield had been dealing with an undisclosed injury. He had not played in the conference finals yet. His absence was felt, as Chatfield is a reliable defender. These lineup shuffles underscored the Hurricanes' urgent need to find a winning formula. Despite the daunting 0-2 series deficit and the pressure of a critical Game 3, the Carolina Hurricanes aimed to project an image of resolve. Publicly, players and coaches emphasized the need to focus on the task at hand. They spoke about taking the series one game at a time. This is a common refrain from teams facing adversity in the playoffs. However, behind the cliches, there was undoubtedly a sense of urgency. The Hurricanes knew their season was teetering on the brink. A loss in Game 3 would create an almost insurmountable 0-3 hole. Even before the goalie change was officially announced, there was vocal support for Frederik Andersen. Defenseman Jakob Slavin, a leader on the team, had praised Andersen. He called him a stone wall and a calm presence. Such comments reflect the tight-knit nature of a hockey dressing room. Teammates often rally around each other, especially during tough times. The mindset heading into Game 3 was one of desperation, but also determination. The Hurricanes were playing on home ice at PNC Arena. They hoped the energy of their passionate fan base could provide an emotional lift. They had to play with discipline and execute their game plan effectively. The decision to start Pyotr Kochetkov in Game 3 brought a new dynamic to the series. The young goaltender took to the ice with the weight of the Carolina Hurricanes season on his shoulders. For 2 periods, the gamble seemed to be paying off, or at least keeping the Hurricanes in contention. The game was tightly contested. Both teams traded chances and the intensity was palpable. Heading into the 3rd period, the score was tied. This set the stage for a dramatic final 20 minutes of regulation play. Kochetkov, in his first playoff start of the year under immense pressure, made some key saves early on. He faced a barrage from the Florida Panthers but held his ground through the first 40 minutes. Nico Mikkola opened the scoring for Florida. However, Carolina responded, with Logan Stankoven finding the back of the net to tie the game. The Hurricanes showed flashes of the team that had been so successful during the regular season. There was a sense of hope among the home crowd that their team could pull off a crucial victory. However, the 3rd period proved to be disastrous for the Carolina Hurricanes. The Florida Panthers unleashed an offensive onslaught. The final score was a deflating 6-2 victory for the Florida Panthers. The 6-2 loss in Game 3 was a devastating blow to the Carolina Hurricanes. Their hopes of turning the Eastern Conference Finals around took a massive hit. They now trailed the Florida Panthers 3-0 in the best-of-7 series. This is an incredibly difficult position to be in. Only a handful of teams in NHL Stanley Cup playoffs history have ever successfully overcome a 3-0 series deficit. The odds were now overwhelmingly stacked against the Hurricanes. Their Stanley Cup dream was fading fast. The defeat also extended a troubling streak for the franchise. Carolina has now lost 15 consecutive Eastern Conference Final games. This unfortunate run dates back to their appearance in 2009. This historical context added another layer of frustration for the team and its fan base. The Panthers, meanwhile, were playing with supreme confidence. Their goaltender, Sergei Bobrovsky, was in exceptional form. As of post-Game 3, Bobrovsky had a .958 save percentage and a 1.01 GAA, with 2 shutouts in his last 6 games. The Hurricanes' offensive woes continued to be a major issue. The team was also missing key offensive contributions from some of its top players.